Thank you, and thank you everybody for coming today. My speech is going to be about chip cookies, and this is my assistant, Mr. Corey. Along with the history of the shortbread cookies and the Toll House cookies, I'm going to demonstrate the basic recipe for what I like to call chip cookies, because you can mix any kind of chips that you really like in there, or nuts, whatever, gummy bears. So I'd like to start out with asking a question. Who likes cookies? Great. All right, well, almost everybody does love to eat cookies, and the foundation of this cookie is a shortbread cookie. Back in the early 1600s, Mary Queen of Scots had commanded some chefs to create this shortbread recipe, and it's basically a recipe with high butterfat content and sugar. That's what the shortbread recipe narrows down to. Well, then as time went on, in the 1930s, there was a lady that ran the Toll House Inn, and she had this idea to cut up a bar of chocolate and put it in what she used for her basic shortbread cookie recipe, and that's what we know now as the Toll House cookie. And everybody likes those. And then in 1939, Nestle bought the rights to publish that, and it's on every one of their little wrappers here. It tells the story about the lady that had the Toll House Inn and chopped up the chocolate and put it into her cookies. It was kind of like a bed and breakfast type place. So, all right. So, then after that, after I've explained what we're doing here, what kind of cookies we're working with, Corey, my assistant, is going to help me. Okay, first you start out with 2 sticks of room temperature butter. I like to use butter instead of margarine because it has a better flavor. So if you wouldn't mind unwrapping them and throwing them in the mixer, please. And I have pre-measured things out just so we didn't have to take the time to do it. You could do it by hand. You don't have to use an electric mixer, but it's just a lot easier, especially if you're going to make a lot of batches of cookies, because your arm will get tired trying to smooth that butter. So go ahead and start the mixer on a low speed, please. It's on the back here. There we go. So you just stir it up, and then you put in 3/4 cup of brown sugar, and it has to be packed really firmly into the cup. That's how all brown sugar recipes are usually like that. And then 3/4 cup of white sugar. Yum, sugar. Okay, so while that's mixing, Corey, would you mind pushing it down with the spatula, but don't get the spatula in the beaters, please. That will be bad. When you're mixing that, I can walk away from that mixer and it still keeps turning. You want to measure 2 1/4 cups of regular flour. Doesn't have to be any sort of fancy flour. And then I've already pre-measured a teaspoon of baking soda and salt. When you put them in the flour mixture, you probably want to take a fork and stir it around first, just to kind of meld all of the spices into the flour. Okay, Corey. Now what I'm going to have Corey do is crack some eggs one at a time into this little measuring cup. And we're going to look at the eggs and make sure there's no chicken parts in them. Sometimes that happens.
Glass around here.
That's pretty free of chicken parts. So you can go ahead and dump it in the mixer. Oh yeah, Corey's so good at that. Okay, and then just kind of, actually if you measure, it's about a teaspoon if you fill the cap up with vanilla. I just kind of eyeball it. Sure, and you know what? There's been times I forgot to put it in there. Nobody ever noticed. Okay, Corey, could you scrape the sides down on that, please, again? The reason I brought 3 eggs is just in case there was chicken parts in one. Then we have a backup egg. Huevo. Okay. And now, slowly, is that all getting to be one thing in there, Cor?
Yeah, it looks back.
Then you slowly add your flour mixture and stir it in as it's going. You don't want to dump the whole thing in at once. It just, I don't know, it's just kind of a rule that you get used to after a while. Sometimes you don't know the rhyme or reason, but you know it comes out better that way. And I couldn't really find any research on why you do things the way you do. It's just basically, I've done this for so many years, I didn't even really need to look at the recipe. I know it by heart. And you can add, like I said, I have M&M cookies for you today. We're going to add butterscotch chips into this, chocolate chips, white chocolate chips, pretty much whatever you think would go in there and taste good, we'll do. The nuts, like I like pecans better than walnuts, but either one is a good nut to put in there, or cashews maybe. So then, let's just get that going. You can turn up the speed if you want on that.
Thank you, Chef Tracy.
You're welcome, Chef Corey. All right. Now, when that looks like one thing, we'll shut that off.
Like that.
Be careful not to get your utensils in that thing because it could hurt someone. It could take an eye out. Okay, that's pretty good, Corey. Now, whenever I get, yes, take the mixer beaters up, please. Now, when you get done, you want to take and only use your spatula and the wooden spoon to stir up the rest of it, because if you have like M&Ms, when you use the beaters, it will kind of, chop them up. Sometimes you don't really want that. So, anyways, that's good enough. Would you mind stirring that, Corey?
Stir it or mix it?
Stir it with a spoon, please. Now that you know the basic foundation for your chip cookies and how to make them, I challenge you to go home today and make some for your loved ones. Thank you very much. Woo! Who wants cookies?
Mama. It costs you extra to have the ones I made.
Okay, we'll just put this aside then and we'll just...
Hey, who wants
Would
one?
you stop?